Hey, welcome to Book World: The Great Escape. I'm author CJ Peterson. My co-host over here is author Michael Scott Clifton. Today we have a special guest, if I can pronounce her name correct, author April Nunn
None.
Nunn Coker. Did I get it right?
Yes. Good job.
Awesome. Welcome, April. Before we get to her, Mike, how was your week?
Uh, Been a good week. It's been a lawn mowing week, and messed up my lawnmower. Had to take it in to get it fixed. I wasn't sure I'd get it back, but I did. So mowed today, mowing tomorrow, and anyway, when you have 2 to 3 acres to mow, when you don't have your lawnmower, it can get away with you pretty quick. If you're not doing it on mowed on a regular basis. Anyway, one of my passions is gardening, and as well as reading and obviously writing. And so I love working out in the yard, and we have like flowers and got a big vegetable garden. So just love doing that sort of thing and keeping the yard looking nice. So that's kind of my Zen type stuff to sort of relax. Melly and I will be going to the Mississippi Comic Con, which will be this Saturday and Sunday in Jackson, Mississippi. And we went there last year for the first time. It was an awesome Comic Con. One of the I've been to many Comic Cons, and this one was one of the most well attended Comic Cons I've been to. We've been to literally shoulder to shoulder people, and for book authors like myself that write in the science fiction and fantasy, as you can relate to that, CJ. Science fiction, fantasy. Comic Cons are a great place to sell books because the people that like to go to Comic Cons also like to read books in those genres. So we're looking forward to it. It's always exciting. I always get to meet lots of neat people.
I love
And
people watching there too. It's so fun.
oh yeah, the cosplay. And again, I know you can relate to the CJ. You get to meet other vendors that are really neat people from all over the country,
And there's tons of super creatives there too. That's one of the things I love about it.
and other authors as well. And sometimes we get to meet some of the celebrity guests because we happen to be part of the Comic Con, and I've got to meet some good people and some people I never thought I'd uh, be sharing air with. So it's always fun. So we're really looking forward to that, and also. April, I did get. I was gonna. I don't know if I told you this, CJ, but April, I did get a invite to speak at the Longview Library. I think that's going to be the first weekend, first Saturday of November. And CJ, guess what the topic is?
I have no idea. Maybe
Artificial intelligence, AI.
Oh.
And the reason they want the presentation on AI is because we talked about it here on Book World, whatever that was, a month ago or 6 weeks or whenever that was. And so I will be, although you won't be there, CJ, which you did most of the legwork when we were putting up the the material and on digital material here on Book World. I am going to try to do a PowerPoint presentation, and I actually did one for the Northeast Texas Writers Organization conference, which has now been rescheduled for, I think it's the second or third Saturday of September. Okay. And believe it or not, the PowerPoint was a painless operation. It was, I guess either I've learned more about technology than I thought, or that the technology is not as hard as I thought it would be. So looking forward.
I would go with number 2. You're learning. It's not as scary as it sounds.
Well, I mean, I couldn't, like I said, it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. And so anyway, I'm going to give it a shot. So,
well, I hope you have tons of fun. I know our next Comic Con is going to be August 17th and 18th in Lufkin, Texas. I know some of the guests that have already been announced are Carla Perez from Power Rangers. She was Ruby something. She was one of the villains in Power Rangers. I know that Kevin Sorbo will be there. super excited to have him as another guest as well because I help run the Comic Cons and this will be the fourth one I think that he's been at. I help run. So love talking to him. He's an awesome guy. And then we're also going to have two of the amazing people, Lizzie and who we met at one Comic Con will be there. So excited to have them as well. So, and I know there'll be some more guests that will be announced. So you can find information on that at tinywood.com. And I believe you might be open on your picture up.
Yeah, it's a great. I mean, the Longview Comic Con was awesome, which is the first one I've been to, which has been done by you and Javier, and I can recommend it highly for anybody that wants to go. It loves Comic Con.
Yeah.
If you're around the Lufkin area, it's an awesome
He
experience.
actually finally got to see what I do. He's just like, "Do you ever sit down?" I said, "No."
Just
No,
don't
I
get
don't.
so stressed next time, CJ. Don't just.
Oh, I always do. That's why I usually have a hand, like a continuous IV of caffeine. It just
Yeah.
is a thing. That's how that works. So we have special guest today, April. And April, I actually ran across one of your ads for this week, and I'm like, oh, hey, I know that crew, the Magnolia Bluff crew. So your book is
Yes.
coming out tomorrow is a Magnolia Bluff series book. Would you mind telling us about
Yes.
that first?
Well, I was invited to join the Underground Authors last summer. And so I was assigned book 25 of the Magnolia Bluff series. This one will be, it's called Just Dying to Glamp. And it's about a young, not a young, like a middle-aged lady with a dog. And she loses her husband and is looking for something to fill her time. And she has always wanted a vintage camper, and she happens to find one in her hometown. Excuse me, that looks like the one on the book cover. So she joins a ladies camping group and travels from Leander, Texas to Magnolia Bluff. And lo and behold, there's a murder at the campground.
Yeah, this is a town that everybody seems to be dying to go to, which I don't understand.
Yeah.
There needs to be like warning signs around this town.
There needs to be. But there is a little bit of romance with one of the police officers on the police force there. And of course, there's some shady characters, and she meets some interesting characters as well. So I'm excited for this book to come out.
Wow.
Now, you are a Christian romance suspense author. So I'm assuming you put a little bit of that into this as well?
Yes, I did. It's Christian based, and it's got a little romance and suspense in it. And it's the group calls them cozy mysteries, all of the books, but some of them are less cozy than others.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, if you've read any of them, you know, Mike. But
I've read quite a few of them myself.
Yeah.
So what is your definition? We've had other authors on that were Christian romance suspense. What is your definition of Christian romance suspense?
That's a good question. I like for all of my writing to be faith-based, to have a bit of a lean toward the message of Christianity. And then, of course, there are romances, but not explicit romances, more sweet romances with the suspense and the mystery and, you know, danger, that kind of thing.
Kind of action, adventure, romance, kind of a little bit of a this
a little
and
bit
that.
of everything. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very cool.
Did you get? Well, I was just going to ask. Did you find it hard to kind of catch up as a new author into the Magnolia series, in terms of which characters need to stay alive, for example? Was that a process that took a while, or was it?
Did you get a cheat sheet? Or
I do have a cheat sheet. In fact, the I guess leader of the group sent me several cheat sheets listing all the characters, who they were brought into the series by, which author, a list of the businesses, a map of the town and the campground and the resort, the highways that go into it, Yes. So I had already started this novel before I was invited. So I had to go back and kind of blend in some of the existing characters. But my character, her name is Mamie West, and she's new. She's a new character. So she brings some new characters with her. It's funny because each author in the group gives us a list. Please do not kill off these characters.
So there's a do not kill list and a can kill list. Is that
yes. Because as this book is coming out, I'm already working on the next one that I'm assigned, which should come out March of next year. So we're all working, in the future. So after you finish a book, you kind of send an outline and the new characters and businesses and all that to everybody else. And then you start on your next one. So yeah, you've got to make sure that somebody else doesn't kill off your main character.
So the mortality rate seems to be pretty high in Magnolia Bluff. So
it is.
Make sure that you don't kill off somebody else's character.
How do they keep a population? I mean, they gotta have like scratch marks.
Let's see. I don't know. That's a good question, but it is fictional, so
You see the town population sign, and every other day it's like written on a blackboard, so you have to erase it, and add subtract.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like a dry erase board with like it's protected or something.
Yes. Do not move here. Do not move here.
Warning, population changes daily.
Yes. It's a lot of fun though. It really is.
Average population instead of like population. This is the average is between X and X.
Yes. Could be.
Now, don't you have another book series out?
I do. I have a book series called the Keeper series, and it's a series about a team of zookeepers who work at night in their local zoo. And I have people make comments. That's a strange, different topic. Well, the Keeper was inspired by my late husband, who was a zookeeper who worked at night at the zoo in Tyler, Caldwell Zoo. And, at night, there's strange things that happen, the noises, the behavior of the animals. It's really easy to imagine things that could happen at night at a zoo. It's really dark. It's spooky. So he helped me come up with some situations, and I turned that into the Keeper. And then we continued that with Keeper 2 and brought in a storm, which is funny because the last couple of weeks, a storm did hit the zoo and destroyed some of the trees and things in the zoo. I was told by one of the zookeepers there that no animals were injured and no animals escaped. Well, that's not true. In my second book, there are things that happen to the animals. And then the third book, Keeper 3, I bring in a power outage and the things that happen there. Of course, you've got a villain involved. You've got romance involved. There's a main character, a young woman who falls in and out of love. And, as she's a zookeeper, she's a single mom. But I also want to explain the titles. The Keeper is the first one, then Keeper 2, then Keeper 3. Well, at the Caldwell Zoo, and I'm not sure about other zoos, if you are hired as a zookeeper, you go in as a Keeper 1. Mm-hmm. You're the lowest level of zookeeper. You don't have much responsibilities. You kind of have to prove yourself. You're on probation for a while. And then as you're there for a while and you prove yourself, you can advance to Keeper 2 with more responsibilities, higher pay. And then when you are there long enough and they think that you're capable of being a supervisor, then you can move up to Keeper 3. So I kind of played with that ranking with the titles there.
Okay. Wow.
But they all have Christian faith-based narrative to them. And when I say Christian novels, it doesn't mean that there's not things. They're not like really syrupy, sweet Christian books. I mean, people do wrong things. Christians do wrong things, but they also realize they're wrong and they fix, they work they pray and they work to fix those things. So it's just
Kind
kind of
of
what's throughout the
a
book.
realistic Christian.
Yes, yes,
That's kind of what I do too.
yes.
Right.
I tell people if you're looking for Dana Oki, keep looking because it's not here. No.
Right. And I have people that ask me at book events, my daughter's really interested in zoos. Would this be appropriate for a 13-year-old or a 12-year-old? And I think, well, it depends on how much you want them to read about, because this character did some wrong things as a young, she's a single mom because she didn't get married before she had this baby, blah, blah, blah. So you just kind of have to go and explain that to parents and see what they're comfortable with their child reading.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no cussing, there's no graphic sex, there's nothing like that.
So you also are the president of the East Texas Writers Guild.
Yes.
And I think you've been president for a few years now. So what would you, because I know she's had this happen. I know you've had this happen. Virtually every book event I ever go to, I get at least one, sometimes several people that say, "Hey, I'm trying to write. What do I need to do?" So can you kind of touch a little bit on the benefits of being part of a writers organization, whether you're a longtime author, a newbie, or somewhere in between?
I think it's definitely, and I think it's very beneficial to join a writers group. I've been president. This is my second year, but I've been involved as an officer since probably 2016 or 17, and I hosted several conferences. I think the main thing that the Writers Guild did for me was give me the confidence and knowledge to know that what I was doing was worth something. I had always been very apologetic with my writing, and like, here's my book, you don't have to read it. It's kind of good. I think some people said it was good, and now I'm like, yes, this is a worthwhile work. This is something that I'm proud of, and I have the confidence to get it out there. Not as much confidence as I would like, but I think the Writers Guild confirmed that being a writer is important. Also puts you with other people who share the same passion, other people who have varying experiences of writing, and some from very beginning, some who've been there forever and have worked and written and know the business. One of my greatest inspirations was Caleb Pirtle.
Right.
You know him.
Right.
He was just everything he said about writing, you just on your toes and just soaking it in, because he was a lifelong writer. And other people, they tell you what they have tried and what they haven't. Plus, you get to hear all these people that the group brings in to talk and to share. And it's kind of like, I can't really pinpoint one thing that the Guild has done, but it's over the course of years, how it's just kind of, I've absorbed this knowledge. And I'm also able to share that now with other writers.
Well, you can get nuggets here, you can get nuggets there, and it's
yes,
kind of slowly collect them.
Yes, yes. And it gives you such a wide base of people to ask for information. And what I really thought before I joined was, I don't want to share my writing. Somebody might take my writing. Well, that's not it at all. Everyone wants to share what they know. And that, I think, was the biggest surprise to me.
Right.
That nobody's just clinging to this knowledge with the attitude of, I'm not sharing this because I don't want them to get better than me. Well, that's not it at all.
Right.
Everyone's willing to share what's worked for them. And nobody writes the same book. Even if you're both a romantic suspense, if you're both romantic suspense authors, you still have, each of you have something to bring to the table.
Well, we were part of the original Underground Authors, and the first anthology that we did, was that book with the picture of the boat. So each of the authors, we were just given the picture of the boat, and we were to write a short story about this picture of the boat. And the difference that each author the perspective of just
Mm-hmm.
this picture of this boat on a beach that brought it in was amazing. Because I
Yeah.
read all the stories, because I did all the individual covers for each one of the stories, was wild. That, each different author has a different perspective. You could give them all the same story prompt,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all going to come up with a completely different story.
Right.
Yes.
And that's the same thing with an author group. You can all
Mhm.
come in with totally, you can give them all the same basic story idea, and they're all going to come up with a completely different story.
Exactly. Exactly.
I think a good point that you made, April, is that um, writers' organizations uh, are meant to benefit the writers. You're not
Mhm.
in competition. You know,
Right.
I think that's what you're saying. You come in and, well, I'm afraid to, to let any of my quote secrets out because somebody might use them and they may sell books more books than me. But I've never, I've been members of the Writers Guild, East Texas Writers Association, in Longview, and of course here in Mount Pleasant, Northeast Texas Writers Organization. And I can truthfully say that at no point at any time in all these years have I
Mhm.
ever got the sense that somebody was hoarding something because they thought that somebody else was going to steal their thunder or their ideas or something like
Mhm.
that.
Hmm.
It's a support group,
It
and
is.
you go to learn. And you mentioned Caleb Pirtle, which we know,
Hmm.
uh, and I agree with you 100% that that he Caleb was a light for me, and he's forgotten more about writing than some so-called experts really know, profess to know. And so and we've had here, Northeast Texas Writers Organization, Jory Sherman, who passed away several number of years ago. But when I first moved to Mount Pleasant and joined the organization, he had written books about writing. He was like a Caleb Purtle. In fact, Caleb and him were good friends. So
Really.
yeah. So I get exactly what you're saying.
Well, 9 out of 10 authors are here to support other authors. That's the
Hmm.
thing I love about the author community itself,
Right.
is that if you ask a question, they're here for you.
Yes.
And most will tell you this isn't a competition. It's kind of like radio stations. You know, there is a book out there for every person, but not every person's going to love every book. The idea
Right.
is to make sure, as long as they're, it's kind of like radio stations, as long as they're listening, we don't care. As long as they're reading, we don't care.
Yeah.
You know, like if I go to a book event, I will walk around and I will talk to just about every single author because I want to know what they're writing. Because
Mhm.
if it's not a book that I have, I will purposely send somebody to somebody else's table.
Yes. Yes.
That's my job is, hey, I don't have what you want, but you know what? They do. So
And
here,
that's
let
what
me
we
go
do.
introduce you to this person.
Exactly. When we share, like I just shared a table with Joanna Grace. Do y'all know Joanna Grace from Lindale?
Mm-mm.
She writes the Divine Chronicles. She's a fantasy author. Well, we shared a table, and that's what we were doing. You don't like Christian romantic suspense. Well, how about fantasy and science fiction? Well, here's Joanna, and we were doing that for each other. And I think that's so wonderful
Hmm.
how authors work together like that.
Well, and even like if Mike and I, there are times we've been back to back, and it's like, well, you might not like my type of sci-fi fantasy, but you might like Mike's. You
Yes.
know, I'm a multi-genre author. I hit lots of different bases, but it might not be what you're looking for. But hey, Mike's got some really cool series over here.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's lots of things as long as you know what other people are writing, or like Daniel McDonough. She's got some really cool series over here. If you
Mhm.
know what other authors are writing, you can send them over.
Yes.
Another thing that
Yes.
I do are book swaps. I'll exchange the first book in my series with the first book of somebody else's series, and I will be happy to share them on social medias because it gives me exposure to other authors' books,
Mhm.
and it allows me to share them with my audience. And to me, that's the name of the game, is getting, it's not only networking, but it's sharing other people's work with other authors, which is why I love Book World, because it gives us the opportunity to share people like you. And
And
so to me, I love that.
Oh, we appreciate that too.
So we have about 5 minutes left. So if somebody wants to write, say, Christian fiction, suspense, romance, what differs yours from somebody else's, and what type of advice would you give them to start?
What differs mine from someone else's? I just think it's just your individual personality and your characters that you create. But my inspirations as far as Christian authors, Karen Kingsbury is an inspiration for me. She doesn't write suspense, but she weaves the Christian message throughout her books in such a way that it lifts you up. And that's kind of the way I wanted my books to be. I know the Keeper series doesn't have as much of it as maybe Just Dying to Glamp does. And then my next book, it's even more Christian oriented, I think, as I grow more comfortable in that genre. But for someone who's wanting to write in that genre, I would say look up Christian romantic suspense authors, because there are some out there. There are authors who promote, or people who promote those authors on YouTube. Try those books, see what they're writing, but just go with your heart. What you enjoy, the characters that you want to make. And the way I write, I'm what you call a pantser. I don't know what my book's going to be about. I know I had to have murder in mind. That's what I knew. But I created this character, Mamie, and I let her do what Mamie had to do. And that's how the book comes about. So I think it's very character driven.
Well, you are among fellow pantsers, so we're with you. So we know that you have an event tomorrow. Can you tell us about that?
My event tomorrow is in Tyler, Texas. I don't know where our readers are, our viewers are. It's a benefit for CASA for Kids of East Texas. It's called Passport to Fun, and it's going to be at the CASA for Kids headquarters in Tyler. It's an all-day event. It's mostly, I think, for women. There's going to be lots of vendors there, food vendors, shopping opportunities. But I just happened to see an ad for it and contacted the host, and they were very happy to have an author there. So we'll see how it goes. But if you're interested, I think there's a ticket price of $15 to get in, which benefits CASA for Kids. And if you're interested, please stop by and tell me, stop by my table and let me know you saw me on this podcast.
Now,
maybe a discount.
There you go. Is there a list on your website or on your social medias of where you're going to be and when?
No, there is not. But I need to add that. My next event is in August at the Greenville Library Author event, Author Festival.
Okay, awesome. For those who want to learn more about April and her books, you can head over to her website, which is aprilnunncoker.com. For those who are listening, that's APRILNUNNCOKER.com. For those who are watching, it has been scrolling across the screen the entire time, so take a look at it. April, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day.
It was my pleasure.
You have been a treat to talk to. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Stay tuned next week as we get to talk about writing characters with chemistry, speaking of romance. Okay. So whether it's chemistry with romance or even just chemistry with action and adventure, because you have to have chemistry when you're dealing with action as well. Stay tuned as we get to talk about them next week. Same time, same sandbox, 4 o'clock. We'll catch you guys next